Hi, welcome to my next video. In this one I wanted to show you how I made the picture that you maybe already seen in one of my previous videos, in which I explained how I stitch scans together in Photoshop. But I wanted to show you the whole process. And because the picture was kind of difficult and I was doing things that I'm not really used to, I decided to make a sketch in Procreate and then color it in also in Procreate, so I know what I'm doing and I have a reference to follow. This illustration is based on some photos that we took with Kana while on one of our late night walks. It's still really hot in Japan, so we usually go for walks after sundown. And this time we spotted a really interesting retro looking phone booth. It's kind of rare to see them like this in the wild. And also a garden with a house like in the back that was really nicely lit. So I wanted to kind of mix those two things together and make a nice original illustration with my own layout. So I didn't use the layout of the photos, I didn't use them as a straight reference. Instead, I did a lot of sketches in Procreate, really rough sketches, to create a good composition for this piece from scratch. So I wanted something that will guide your eye through the whole piece. I added elements like the fence or the bamboo pole that supports the tree, just to make some guides that will guide your sight around. So for example, it will go from the center phone booth to the right place that is like far in the distance, and then follow the fence and the tree and go like over the top, and then follow the bamboo pole down and go to the letterbox and then to the house in the back of the garden. Once I had the composition down, I started to color it roughly in Procreate to test the colors. This time I wanted to make the illustration in this kind of monochromatic style, using only few colors and trying to focus on the places that are the brightest, so the telephone booth and the house in the distance and the sky. I tried to kind of follow the style of the Japanese woodblock prints, so hanga prints, in which the picture is kind of divided into those layers of color that are applied separately and consist of a flat color or a nice gradation. To kind of be able to do that, after I did the test picture in Procreate, I retraced the sketch on watercolor paper using a little bit of an unusual tool. Because I wanted the lines to be visible but not really prominent, I wanted the picture to look like it was just painted with watercolors. I used a pencil that leaves really light lines, but also at the same time does not hurt the watercolor paper. I used this time the big evolution pencil, the HB one, which I don't know if you know those pencils, but these are this kind of plasticky kind of things that were supposed to be harder to break than usual pencils, but the result was only that they are kind of plasticky and the mark that they leave is not so nicely visible as usual pencils. But I tried to use their characteristics here to their advantage, so to make lines that will kind of disappear after I paint over them with watercolors. They're still there, but they are not prominent enough, so you kind of don't see them so much. I colored the whole piece using Schmincke watercolors, my standard watercolor set, but this time I used only few of them. Mostly Potter's Pink, Payne's Grey and Prussian Blue to mix all the tones. Schmincke's Payne's Grey is a beautiful dark blue-gray tone, which is perfect for a painting like this to mix all the kind of neutral tones that I did here. And Potter's Pink is what gives them this kind of reddish hue and the beautiful granulating textures. The biggest challenge in this picture was making all the light parts appearing as they kind of emit light. So the building in the back of the garden and the telephone box should look like they are glowing. And that's really hard to achieve when painting with watercolors, because you have to start with the light tones and go darker and darker and darker with your mixes while trying to protect the white of the paper. When I finished painting this illustration with watercolors, I thought it looked okay, but it could be a little bit better. I thought that the glow effect could be better, and usually I would do such corrections in Photoshop. I would make some places a little bit lighter and some places a little bit darker, just to enhance the picture a little bit. But this time I remembered that some of the background artists that, for example, worked in Studio Ghibli, that made animation backgrounds by hand, were using airbrushes to kind of enhance their pictures. And because we have an airbrush, Kana used it to paint her clay figurines. I wanted to try it out. I used white rotring ink on the places that I wanted the glow effect to be the strongest, so on the telephone box and on the house in the distance. I also loaded the airbrush with some Payne's Grey watercolor and made the dark parts of the illustration kind of a little bit more darker and more contrasty and more in the dark, to make the final piece even more atmospheric. I like the effect a lot and I will probably be experimenting with airbrush in my next pieces. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. As always, feel free to comment, share and subscribe, and you can also support me on Patreon. It's your support on Patreon for which I'm really grateful, that allows me to work on my own projects. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye!